So let's jump right into it. This morning, I'm going to breakfast in Gilbert, Arizona, and I am a little bit nervous. And it's not because I don't like Gilbert, it's because I did a couple of bad things out here. So while we're talking about this, we talk about the Gilbert Goons. And Gilbert, and we're just going to perish the thought real quick because trust me, as someone who went out and actively tried to saw out, believing that there was some type of criminal element or gang activity, it didn't happen. And for anybody saying, about these parents, oh, well, a lot of them have money and power, they did. And if your kid made a mistake, wouldn't you try to do the things? Your child is a mini me of yourself, is an extension of yourself, right? And even if you have problems with a kid, you still love your kid. And maybe you let them get in enough trouble so that they get scared and realize it scares them straight. Does this kid need to go to prison? Probably not. Well, that's for the courts to decide. That's not for us as a community to decide. And there's too many times we lately have done the knee-jerk reaction. We had a, minimal amount of information, but it was the idea of the classism. Oh, somebody who's richer and more powerful than us had an advantage that the rest of us didn't. And that's not what was happening. A lot of laws that protect minors kicked into play. And that's why we didn't get a lot of information on these kids, because they're minors. And they fucked up. I'll think back to when I was in my teen years. I fucked up a lot. Would I have deserved being, blasted, going viral on social media, being blasted, 6 ways from Sunday? That's debatable. But for the people that has happened to, it doesn't mean that it was right. It means it happened. Yeah, there were a lot of these parents who spent a great deal of money making sure that their kids' names were not brought up and were not associated. And sometimes that's what you have to do. And for any type of, media outlets that were upset because, oh, this is censorship. It wasn't censorship. It was called protecting kids. Even if that child had fucked up, does not mean that they were ineligible to receive the same protections. Yes, they fucked up. Yes, unfortunately, there was a child who died. But not everybody involved, and even as I've discovered recently, even the people who threw the deadly blow, it was debatable whether it was malicious. It happened. It was a terrible thing that happened. Nick, you're right. It could have been anybody's kid. But the fact is it wasn't on us as a community to try and attack these people. And I took that too far. In the vein of I was going out trying to target people who I believe were Gilbert Goons, and also the allegation that some of these kids, that their parents were law enforcement or people in positions of power. And I played with fire and I got myself burned. And it was good to get burned because then you have the realization, if that makes any sense. And this, for me personally, I have to take accountability, was living in Albuquerque. So for people who don't know, my family is from Albuquerque, but I wasn't raised there. And as I went back as an adult, I appreciated exactly why my parents never wanted me raised in that fucking hellhole. And I love Albuquerque. I love the food. I love the people. But as far as it goes as leadership of a city, it is poor. And it's debatable whether a lot of the chain of command there, those in positions of power, allow things to get bad because they're actually profiting from the cacophony. And that's been an allegation I've made against leadership in Albuquerque for several years. They want the chaos. They want the car thefts. They want all of that because it has allowed them to play people against each other. It's an even bigger conversation than Gilbert. So my problem, which is my problem to deal with, it's not everybody's problem, is that I came from a ultra aggressive city, and then I came back with an attitude like, oh my gosh, now everywhere's like Albuquerque. You don't know what's going on. It's not. Gilbert is now Albuquerque. It will never be Albuquerque. It is too forward thinking. It is too intelligent. It is too curious. It is everything that you wanted Albuquerque to be. And it's sitting right here. And now I have the challenge. I have to take the responsibility that I came with a bad attitude. That's my fault. Nobody else's. It's my fault. And now I have to earn back the trust of my community because I listened to the wrong people. And I listened to the wrong people because I wasn't taking accountability and responsibility for myself. I just wanted to be angry. I just wanted to watch the world burn. More importantly, myself burn. And thankfully, I had a couple of people, again, a law enforcement professional who breathed a little bit of logic, oxygen into my head. Because it's hard when you have an echo chamber and you're not looking at things objectively. Or you're not looking at things objectively from a public safety. A lot of the things that we're doing look like somebody who was trying to victimize people. And that's not what I was trying to do. But I also have to accept the fact that in my suicidal tendencies, someone else could have gotten hurt. And sorry doesn't feed the bulldog. And even though I was trying to destroy myself, does not give me the right to destroy others. And that's what kind of helped me pop back out of it. Now it's just kind of the thing like self-reflection. It's going to be a process. But it's not a difference. It's taking accountability. I can't blame anybody. I can't blame Albuquerque. I chose to live there. Even during the pandemic, I had multiple opportunities to move away to better areas with better jobs, better opportunities. But I stayed in Albuquerque. So I'm like, this is my community. This is where I was. And it was a trauma. Partially a self-inflicted trauma. But then and this is where I have to clarify myself, like to people in Gilbert, and where I had to take accountability for myself. And I talked about this on my TikTok, but I need to talk about it on here. Is I was setting a trap. I was trying to see, because when you see those videos of the Gilbert goons, these kids, they were jackasses, violent. And the ones, they're being dealt with accordingly to the law. And the people who are prosecuting them they are evaluating the situation. That is what they're there to do. That is their job description. It's not my job description. And it's good that someone like me didn't render judgment because I was not being considerate. I was not also recognizing, these are teenagers. You're going to even, the idea, by the time you're age 15 to 17, that's the person that you're probably going to be for the rest of your life. But you can change. Even though I kind of still have some things from when I was 17, my bad attitude, my indifference, there are things that changed over time, like getting my ass up to work, taking care of things. There are habits that I built along the way. So the core version, yes, is still my 15 to 17-year-old self. But I've developed other healthy habits that I have to recognize, hey, that's healthy to do. I'm being an adult-ish. So, And why am I saying all this? Because while this was happening, I was setting a trap. Again, the bad attitude 17-year-old myself, I was looking at these videos of these kids in Gilbert running up to people in parking lots like, that looks like fun. It's been a long time since somebody's ran up behind me in a parking lot. And again, that also ties in with the suicidal part. It was like, I didn't care. Genuinely did not care. And in the process of that, it looked like I was trying to target, because again, the notion that, some of these kids were the children of police officers or people in positions of power, I didn't realize that the person who put that idea in my head was somebody who was trying to target a police officer who had prosecuted them, rightfully so. Does that make sense? Where my bad attitude put me into a worse position, now I'm dealing with, reprehensible people. I don't want to be doing that. The criminal element. People who don't say all cops are bastards because there's problems with the, judicial or, law enforcement. They're saying it because they don't want any accountability. They don't want to be prosecuted when they steal a car, when they shoplift, when they cheat on their taxes, when they lie to authorities, when they're trying to use and distribute controlled illegal substances, when they're trying to traffic people. I ran into a lot of weird people who said a cab, and there were a lot of you who were pieces of shit. People who have not taken accountability. Well, you lost a loved one, okay? Maybe your loved one should have taken accountability for themselves before they found, when an officer pulls out their gun, not the taser. We all know what the tasers look like, and we know what the guns look like. When the gun comes out and they tell you get on the ground, they didn't. They charged at the officer, they tried to attack the officer, and they got shot and seriously injured. Whose fault is that? And the problem is that some of you look in that situation and go, well, they should have better training. Maybe you should have been a better emotional resource to your relative, to your loved one that lost their life. And maybe their bad behavior wouldn't have put them in harm's way. They put themselves in harm's way. And that officer who fired had every right to do so. They have a family, they have friends, they have a life. They have life, liberty, and freedom that they want to live for when they clock out. I do get worked up when I talk about this. I'm very upset at some of you. You tried to put me in a position where I would go to prison. You were not my friends. There were some of you, I have to take responsibility for my bad behavior, and I also have to recognize that I got mixed up with essentially domestic terrorism. I was trying to target law enforcement. Oh, you made a great argument. So, to be clear of what I was doing, I was trying to lure out gang activity. I was trying to piss off what I thought, the Gilbert goons, thinking, oh, this is like an organized crime. They're all organized, they're all on the same page. So I set a trap, and it turned out I was just talking to a bunch of cops. I was not following police officers from their place of living. And that's where things change. When I learned that there were people connected to me who were saying shit like, oh, I know where officer so-and-so's kid goes to preschool, goes to high school, goes to elementary. Oh, we're done. And I was never a part of those conversations, and if I had, heads would have rolled. And some of you who were doing shit like that, again, you were tugging on my heartstrings, the echo chamber, the lack of self-accountability and responsibility. You tapped into that in me and manipulated it. And I have to take responsibility because I allowed you to do it. And also, fuck you because you saw my suicidal tendencies, and rather than help someone, you found a way to exasperate them in me. You fed the beast. Because you actually didn't care if I died. You say all the right things. You say trans rights matters. You say LGBT rights matter. You say BLM, believe women, believe science. You look like a very progressive person, but deep down, you are a domestic terrorist. Because you were trying to goad myself and others like me who are lonely, we're a little depressed, we're a little anxious, and you want to use us like ticking time bombs. And you think you're absolved yourself of any type of accountability and responsibility just because you vote Democrat, just because you say free Palestine. You're also the same bastards who, after what happened in Boulder, Colorado, you applauded what that individual did. And now y'all are wondering why you're getting thrown into the back of vans. You're getting thrown into the back of vans because you have spent an entire lifetime. I started finding out the names of these people who were disappearing into thin air. And when you look at their life and you look at the things that they were searching from their IP address, the people they were talking to, the statements that they were making on social media, these are people who played the game. They harassed police officers. They harassed judges who prosecuted them, not because anything that these, public servants had done was wrong, but because these people could never take accountability and responsibility. You broke the law. You were prosecuted. You were put behind bars. You were given an ankle monitor. You were given probation. Your passport was taken from you. For 5 to 10 years, you were not permitted to leave the state of Arizona because we needed to know where you were at all times. You bought bomb-making materials. And I don't like Trump in any way, shape, or form, but unfortunately, when you look at the new operation that they're pulling, abducting people, yes. And when you find out some things about these people who've been abducted, it kind of, like for here in Arizona, like again, this whole situation's happening with me. And then I learned that some of the people that I was associated with who were talking about, fuck the police accountability, we should find out who these kids are and who their families are. And that didn't register to me because I would not follow somebody back to their house. I would set a trap. Hey, I'm in the middle of the parking lot. Hey, there's a bunch of valuables in my car. Hey, I might have drugs in my car. Attack me in a parking lot. It's not better, but it is different. Different in the vein of I was not following an officer's child to their preschool, to their high school. Some of these officers, I knew their badge number. I knew the vehicle and its VIN number, license plate number. For some of them, based on its year, model, the pitch of the engine. And they do make a difference. All cars do as they age. The pitch of its combustion, the noise that it makes changes. And based on how much mileage and other modifications have been done to the car, like police cars do make a different noise when they drive past. That's because they have a different intercooler. It's like $200,000 on top of what the original car cost. So you're talking about, a $500,000, it's a mechanical work of art. But I digress. When it came to my attention, because the police didn't push me to do this. In fact, they told me not to do this, and I don't really care. And if I'm painting a target on my back, again, maybe that's my suicidal part, and I have to deal with that. But I just want to make this clear. I threw myself to the wolves, or attempted to, and discovered that there weren't as many wolves. or that there's more sheep, but wolves in sheep's clothing. The people who are pretending to be progressive, the people who are saying free Palestine, the people who are saying LGBT rights. Do LGBT rights matter? Yes. Does an anti-war rhetoric matter? Yes. But the problem is that there's some of you who have taken it too fucking far. Like, I know where officer so-and-so's kid goes to school. Oh, judge on circuit whatever. I know where their granddaughter, I know where she lives. I know where she works. And then you got thrown into the back of a van. And these were some people that I knew personally, and that's where I got nervous. Oh my gosh, they're getting thrown into the back of vans. Into the back of vans and disappearing until I learned what they were doing. And I am choosing to cooperate with law enforcement and embarrass and expose you assholes for who you are, because people need a better picture as to why you're winding up into the back of a van. No, you do not get to threaten the families of law enforcement professionals, whether you agree or disagree with them. You, some of you who are saying ACAB, were trying to actively plan an attack against a school, hoping that one of the casualties would be the child of a law enforcement professional, a judicial professional, maybe somebody who is assistant DA or the district attorney, part of their office, targeting people who work there. You have no fucking right. And a lot of the people who do shit like this, you have played the game for years. You have manipulated the law for years. You have done enough to be stopped and detained and pulled over, but no charges ever stuck. Until now. And that's where I have to clarify myself, because there's people in my community who thought I was the same part of trash as that. No, I was never going to follow a child from their school. I was never going to follow a police officer's wife, a judge's wife, a U.S. Marshal's relative. I was never going to track them down, sought them out, because if I did that, I could have done that. If I had done that, it would have proved that I was a criminal thinking and acting like a criminal. And yes, I won't lie, the law, that thought could cross your mind, but you don't do it, because that's a line you don't cross. That's taking things too far. And there are problems with law enforcement. There are problems with the judicial system. But instantly turning to the anarchist shit is how you wind up in prison. Or how you wind up in a camp in El Salvador. And some of you who are disappearing into thin air right now, and nobody's missing you, because nobody misses a criminal. And for the fact that I was connected to some of you who were doing shit like this, if I had been pulled into the back of a van, I couldn't be surprised. Even if it happens now. Because I was associating with people, again, who are doing and saying feckless shit with pride. I know where this officer's child goes to school, and you're gonna fucking do what? And then you get me into worse trouble because I'm a rideshare driver. I have done the, you do the school trips. You know, where you are paid for by the district, and you go to school, you pick them up, you take them home, that's what you do, or you take them from there to a rec center. I was doing it for a while in a city where I was taking them from their prep school to a gymnastics. I didn't have to talk to these kids. I wasn't rude to them either. Just pick them up, drop them there. Please make sure you have phone keys, wallet, look on the seat, have a great day. And I got paid. And that was an easy gig for a while. And that got fucked up. I quit that because I'm like, oh, These are these rich kids who think that nothing applies to them. That's not what was happening. And the only people who were acting ultra privileged were the people who were obsessed with privilege. You were the ones that when you were getting questioned by police and you were getting detained, getting pulled over, who were acting like jackasses. And I got tied up with y'all. And it cost me, not just cost me my reputation, it cost me, I could have been friends with these people. And once I started learning more about them while trying to set a trap, I learned, hey, these are actually pretty nice people. People that I would want to be around. They, again, because of my bad behavior and going down the rabbit hole of my own echo chamber and not trying to be a good person, I put myself in a bad position, and I have to live with that. So yeah, I'm in Gilbert. I'm about to get out of my car. I've been scared to get out of my car for 26 minutes. I'm afraid that when I go up to this business to ask to eat this morning, that they're going to refuse me. Because I associated myself at one point with domestic terrorists. And what snapped me out of it, thank God, was the thought of other people being put in harm's way. No, I will never seek out and stalk the family of someone who is a police officer's family, a judge's family, a U.S. Marshal's family. Some of you were going, oh, and that's where you tried to use me, and I should have recognized it then, but I didn't recognize it. It's like saying, oh, is there any way you can get files from your old government jobs? No. Why would you even ask that? Those people... And I just kind of brushed it off. It's like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. And I should have recognized right then that somebody who had asked me a question like that, I should have immediately been on alert right then, and I wasn't. And if I had recognized that for what it was, like I said on my TikTok yesterday, it is good that some of you were thrown into the back of vans, that you're in undisclosed locations, and you better be happy that some of us didn't try to find you. There are some things you don't do. And there's some of you who just have never gotten that memo. You've continually, your entire life, you've played the legal system. You have played police officers. You've gone from being on probation to being on probation, to being in jail, to being on probation, to being on the run. And then you circle the same thing back over. You don't know how to behave. Your family didn't know how to behave. And yes, there has been problems with law enforcement and the judicial system. It does not mean you get to go full on out anarchy. Because for as many people are willing to make the sacrifice, and, you know, there are people who are more absolved to peace than they are to war. And for some of you, especially like for Free Palestine people who keep acting like those who aren't pro-war or again, what happened in Boulder, there were some of you that applauded what that man did. And if you want to take it that far, it's not cool. And there are plenty of people who will stop you. On the side of peace, yeah, life sucks. Life isn't fair. Not everything is within our control. But that does not mean you get to take it out on innocent people who were not prepared. And I'll be honest, don't pull that shit where I live. Do not try to target innocent people where I am. It's a suggestion for your health. And for a lot of you, you know who you are. You better fucking pray and be grateful that I'm not naming you by name. Or telling people where you work, where your kids are, where your loved ones are. Because most people are not going to take too kindly to people acting like that. Yeah, Trump sucks. Yeah, Project 2025 sucks. But when you take it to a feckless, violent extreme, and that's where I'm stuck on the fence here. I don't like Trump. I don't like Project 2025. At the same time, I'm not ready to set shit on fire. And just because I'm not does not mean I'm a bad person. And I cannot believe I have to say that. And when I've said things before like, oh, there's more of us than there are of them. Yeah, there are more of us who just want drama-free. We want to enjoy our lives. We want to have a safe community. We want to have a good job. We want to have a nice looking car, nice clothes, good food to eat, clean water to drink. There are more of us than there are of them. And who are willing to do what is necessary to better ourselves and our communities. And with that, I will end this and go confront my fears.